Oh man, we have a killer show today. I'm really excited about this one. Celebrating one of the biggest soundtracks of the good old 80s. We got half a dozen of the artists who made this record one of the biggest ever, including the main song that was a major bitch to get down. Now, the movie needed a major adrenaline rush anthem to open the film to get audiences locked in. And they tested over 300 songs for this scene and nothing worked. Then after a while, they finally got a song that would work, and they had 6 major bands and artists turn down the chance to record it. They were running up against the wire, so in an act of desperation, the producer called in a favor with a guy who was not necessarily known as a rocker, but he came in and he slayed it. Not only did it go to the top of the charts, it went back to the charts 35 years after, and it became his most streamed song ever, and this guy's big. Story of a Blockbuster is next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you want the rarely told stories and details from the soundtrack of your life, look no further than here. We always have interviews and the stories that you're not going to find anywhere else. Also, check us out on Patreon for more content. But most of all, subscribe so you can be a part of this. Also, check out our merch below where we have some new shirts. We haven't done this show in a long time, but it is time for another edition of our show, Soundtrack, where we give you the skinny behind the greatest movie soundtracks and the greatest movie songs of all time. Now, over the years, I've done several interviews with artists for today's show, and I actually have found new stories that not many people have heard. Some have never been told. So for today's retrospective, I have new stories from recent interviews about an old favorite, including half a dozen participants from the soundtrack. We've got Kenny Loggins, Berlin, the Righteous Brothers, Loverboy, and Steve Stevens, Billy Idol's guitarist, on the story of the Top Gun soundtrack. When Top Gun producer Jerry Bruckheimer asked for a killer tune to put Top Gun on the map, 300 plus songs had been tested and rejected. The theme that Jerry was looking for had to grab viewers by the throat from the beginning. Had to be catchy and exhilarating to match the action on the screen. Giorgio Moroder wrote the music. Tom Whitlock initially wrote the lyrics, and they had session singer Joe Pizzullo sing the demo. Pizzullo had a big duet a few years earlier on the charts. I swear this time, I'm never gonna let you go. Even though Joe did the demo, the film was looking for an all-star name band or singer to perform the song. So Danger Zone was sent out to everybody, from Toto to Bryan Adams, to REO Speedwagon, to Corey Hart. Many others were considered and rumored. Somehow the song was rejected by all of them. Some didn't want to record it because it was pro-war, pro-military, the theme of it. With Toto, the lawyers messed it up. It went on and on and on. They were getting down to the wire. They needed somebody. They needed a singer ASAP. Moroder did. Enter soundtrack king Kenny Loggins. Kenny really wanted a big rocker for his live show since he'd only been doing ballads outside of Footloose at that time. So Giorgio, he said, get in here right now. Little did Kenny know that Danger Zone would become his calling card. His most streamed song ever. It hit number 2 on the pop charts in 1986. Then 36 years later, it would hit the top 5 again when Maverick Top Gun, the sequel, blew up in the summer of 2022. A couple years back. Maverick Top Gun has since become one of the biggest movies ever. It's number 5 on the US chart. It's ahead of Titanic, Black Panther, and Avengers Infinity War, just to name a few. It's grossed over $718 million. With the number 2 hit, Danger Zone, by the king of the movie soundtrack, Kenny Loggins here. We also have the number 1 love theme, Take My Breath Away, by Berlin. And the number 12 power ballad, Heaven in Your Eyes, by Loverboy. Not to mention, You've Lost That Love and Feeling, by the Righteous Brothers. You lost that love and feeling. And the Harold Faltermeyer's theme, played by Billy Idol's guitarist, Steve Stevens. This soundtrack was one for the ages. They also had Cheap Trick and Miami Sound Machine. Not only the best-selling soundtrack of '86, but one of the best-selling soundtracks ever, with 10 million sold in America alone. Coming up next, I have every single artist behind those songs to tell us new stories from an old favorite. This is the definitive story of the Top Gun soundtrack. I guarantee it. Here it is.
Danger Zone was not a song I was supposed to do. Initially, as I understand it, they had some other act. You probably know.
Toto, Bryan Adams. I don't know if Bryan Adams was going to do Danger Zone, but they wanted to do a song on it, but he didn't want to do it because it had to do with war. And then it was Toto, though. I think they were going to have Toto do it.
I thought it was Toto, too, but I heard recently that it was some other act with a rock, edgy voice.
We got offered Danger Zone to do that song for the Top Gun soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Before we even done Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, it was before that. We'd never done anything for a movie or movie soundtrack. And so I got sent the song, and I loved the song. I thought it was just great. I thought it would be a perfect vehicle for Starship. We talked about it, and there was some feeling in the band that maybe the movie was a little too, pro, gung-ho, war, glorifying, And, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was. I don't know. I guess with the mentality of the Jefferson Starship and with the history of the band, and the kind of things that we felt we had to be true to, and stand for, we did pass on it. Kenny had a huge hit with it, and it was great for him too. It was perfect.
He sounded great.
Now it's hard. It's kind of hard to imagine how it could have been done any better than what Kenny did with it.
I was already in the studio recording a song that I'd written for the movie called "Playing with the Boys." The most 80s video that I remember where we did the volleyball players. Those girls are quintessentially 80s, big hairdos. And I was writing with Peter Wolf, the Austrian producer. He one of his biggest hits was "We Built This City" with Starship. And so Peter and I were at a cattle call where there were maybe 10 other top pop acts, including even R&B acts. And we watched a rough cut of the movie. And when we got to the volleyball scene, I hit him with my elbow. I said, "We got to write for this scene. Nobody's going to write for this scene. This is a total, slam dunk." So we wrote what his wife came up with the theme line, "Playing with the Boys." And she wrote the lyrics with us. And it was just a straight ahead pop tune, but Peter had a really great approach. He recorded on a synthesizer called a synclavier. And that had a sound of its own. I would record on that again years later with John Barnes. And it was a great sounding instrument, and just about everything went through the synclavier. And so he would play the drums in by hitting the keys with his fingers. And so his feel was amazing. And I think that's why the record, the original Playing with the Boys, has such an up poppy vibe to it. We were really going for that thing. And also probably a sign of the times that was probably a groove of that era that made sense. It was just where people were putting the groove. That all changes from era to era, So I was in the studio, and Giorgio reached out to my A&R guy at Columbia and said, "Can you get Kenny Loggins in here, because I need a singer yesterday." They were already dropping music into the movie, and they didn't have a voice for that. All I knew was that whoever they had signed up to make the record, the lawyers had screwed it up, and that act was no longer in on it. And so I asked Michael Dilbeck. Wow, okay. Pulled that out of the green bag. And I asked Mike, "Is it up-tempo?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "I'll do it." Because I've been writing nothing but ballads, right. And I needed a rocker for my show. In those days, if the movie didn't hit, no one would ever hear it anyway. But if it did hit, then you had a hit record. So it made sense to me to just go for it. So I committed to it, having never heard the song.
Oh, really?
Showed up at Giorgio's studio the next day. We messed with the lyric a little bit, messed with the chords a little bit, and then a week later I put, or even less than a week later, because they were in a big hurry, I put the lead vocal on it.
Well, Danger Zone's become part of your persona, like in the show Archer.
Danger Zone.
Heaven in Your Eyes. And that's a song that, of course, on the Top Gun soundtrack, went to number 12 in America, number 24 in Canada. How did that happen? Because that was one of the biggest selling soundtracks, not only of the 80s, but of all time.
Tom Cruise, Kelly McGillis, Top Gun.
How did that opportunity come to you?
I got approached by the producers of Top Gun, and they asked me to come down for a meeting. So they take me over into a corner where there's a television, and they put a tape in, and they play a section where this girl goes racing up the hill in an old Porsche, a black Porsche Speedster. And behind her, way behind her, comes in a motorcycle, is Tom Cruise up the hill. And then there's no music in it, so it seems a little awkward. And then he parks the bike and you can hear him walk in and everything. She's standing over there and he walks over and puts some money in the jukebox and presses a few buttons. And he says, and then they stop it and they go, "Can you write me a song for there?" I said, "When do you need it by?" He goes, "Thursday." I said, "Dude, it's Monday. I gotta fly back to Vancouver, get the guys together." It was partially written by a friend of ours and his writing partner. We had to record it and mix it and master it in 2.5 days.
Take my breath away.
A lot of people don't realize that Take My Breath Away, which number one hit, won an Oscar, won a Golden Globe, and they pushed
Nobody
it.
saw that coming.
No. There were demos by other artists, including the Motels, Martha, before you guys did the song.
Watching in slow motion as you turn on.
And you love Martha.
I do.
I do too. She's wonderful.
Yeah, she is. To me, Take My Breath Away, it's almost become as iconic as the movie itself. Say
Thank
that. Tell me about recording that and how that came together.
It taught me that the most important thing is to sing a song from honesty, whatever it is for me at that time, because that song was about love and a love that's supposed to be current and active, but I had no current and active love. So the thing that people comment on is how sad I sound, because I was. I was sad. I had no love in my life. I hadn't had it for 4 years. When I sang that song, we were just constantly gone. So I was like, okay, I'm done with guys. I'm only gonna be with a guy if it's the real thing and it's gonna last. And how do you know that?
Yeah,
Right? So I was basically alone and had put myself into a corner of work and no life and no friends and no anything except music. So I sang that song from my honest position was, God, I would love to be in love. I would love to have someone love me and want to be there for me and call me and want a life with me. It was coming from an honest, sad place that I guess nobody else sang it from. I don't know why it clicked for Giorgio and for the producer, for Jerry Bruckheimer and Tony Scott, bless his heart. Brilliant man. So the honesty worked, even though it really had nothing to do with the song as it was written. It was from an honest place.
Because we knew Love and Feeling would have been a big hit again if they would have released it out of Top Gun. They didn't release it. And, but we were getting all kinds of airplay.
They never put it in the album. I was never in the album.
Until later.
Did they do it later?
They did. Later on, they put it on the 20th anniversary and like the 15th anniversary.
Much later, yeah.
In fact, I've got the record.
You know more about me than I know about you.
Yeah, you certainly know more about our
That's
records
true.
that we never knew about.
The theme to the motion picture Top Gun anthem. I mean, every kid my age remembers that. That really probably more than any track on the Top Gun soundtrack. That was the one that we played all the time. I don't know why. It just had that. In that time, I mean, it's not because we're like military or anything, you know, like, oh, we want to join the military. We want to, but that song, the guitar solo in that, it just raises you up a level as a human being. It's just so cool. Tell me about that. And of course, you won a Grammy Award in '87 for Best Pop Instrumental Performance, but I mean, that soundtrack was so big. I mean, to be on Bad, and then with what Billy Idol was doing, and then with Moni Moni hit #1, and then Top Gun soundtrack. I mean, you were everywhere that year. But tell me about that.
Well, that was really an extension of Whiplash Smile, because Harold Faltermeyer, who wrote the score for the film, came in as our keyboard player. And he said, oh, you know, I want to show you something. And I'm working on this movie with Tom Cruise, Top Gun. It's about this flying school. And he had the video, showed me the video. And back then, you know, it's like, I mean, now you look at the aerial footage, you know, we're so used to CGI, but back then it looked really cool. You know, wow, this is revolutionary.
Film in this school is about combat.
And he said, yeah, I've got this theme and I'd like you to play guitar on it. And he had the melody and it was all written. And so it was another one of those very quick sessions. What was really good was that all my gear was set up already. So I already had a great guitar sound. I didn't have to spend any time with the engineer or anything. It was just a matter of capturing the melody and everything. And then we did the solo. I kind of forgot about it, you know, because it was at the end of the day, it was just a 2-hour session or whatever. And then, you know, by Monday, we're back into doing Whiplash Smile. And then Harold moved on, you know, he finished his keyboards. And I think he was only with us for about a week. And then he sent me this is the days of telegrams or something. The premiere is going to be in New York. Would you come to the premiere? Oh, premiere, sure. You know, I'd never been into a film premiere. Wow, this is a big deal. This is a big movie. And I remember we're sitting together, and I knew the music, and it's building up, and it's the scene where the jet is coming up out of the aircraft carrier. This dun, 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 right? And I know my theme's going to come on bar 32. I remember the track, you know. Da, 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 it's about to come up. Da, da, da. And right before the guitar comes in, it cuts to Danger Zone. And I looked at Harold, I went, no, you didn't. He goes, it's the producers. I go, those bastards. And I'm waiting. And so I had to wait till 45 minutes into the movie when my guitar suddenly appears. And I'm pissed off. Harold, let me down. It's supposed to come at the beginning. And but then by then it was, you know, we did the video. I was half joking. I didn't expect anything. You know, I was just kidding about it, you know, but
Top Gun 2, we're putting that together. They got to have you on the soundtrack for that.
I talked to Tom Cruise about that when I met him for the first time when I did Jimmy Kimmel.
You and Kenny Loggins know each other?
We kept missing each other. Tonight is the first time that we met each other.
And I said, you know, this Top Gun 2 thing that they're talking about, you going to use any of the original music? He says, oh, yeah, definitely. I didn't know that the song was going to be in the opening of the movie. Really exciting.
Hey, leave us a comment about the Top Gun soundtrack and all these amazing songs. It takes me right back to the summer of 1986, and we need that feeling more than ever right now. What do you think? Is it one of the greatest soundtracks ever? What are your favorite songs from here? What else would you like to see in our soundtrack show? What other movie soundtracks should we cover? Somebody said I should cover Flash by Queen. Let me know below what your favorites are. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.